So, based on a recent article in Forbes Health, young adults 18 to 25 in the US experience the highest rates of mental illness. Hi, and welcome to Beyond Empty Nest. I'm your host, Jody Silverman, speaker, mentor, and Chief Dare Officer at Moms Who Dare. Every Thursday, I'll share stories of midlife transformation, happiness tips, and dare you to see the opportunities waiting for you so that you can make this next chapter even better than the last. If you're ready to dare, I'm ready to dare with you. Let's get into today's episode. So, based on a recent article in Forbes Health, young adults 18 to 25 in the US experience the highest rates of mental illness at 36.2%, followed by those ages 26 to 49 at 29.4%, and adults ages 50 and over at almost 14%. That's us. But anxiety, and my point of saying that is that anxiety isn't reserved for just the young or the old. And would it further surprise you to learn that anxiety disorders such as generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and panic disorder are some of the most commonly diagnosed mental health conditions in the US, affecting, wait for it, 42.5 million adults? Well, my guest today is known as the anxiety healer and has found the sweet spot on how to use social media and how you can reach those most in need of help and support with anxiety through social media and connect with those people so they feel seen, heard, and most importantly, understood. Allison, licensed therapist, author, podcast host, and holistic healer, specializes in cognitive behavior therapy and mindfulness-based positive psychology for adolescents and adults with anxiety disorders. She is a CEO and founder of the Anxiety Healer Community, boasting over 550,000 members on Instagram and TikTok. She spreads awareness and holistic healing methods for anxiety. Her book, The Anxiety Healer's Guide, offers a comprehensive toolkit for overcoming anxiety. And through her podcast, The Anxiety Chicks, Allison destigmatizes mental health and shares her journey to recovery, providing a judgment-free community globally. It's like a drop of mic moment. Allison, welcome to Beyond Empty Nest.
Aw, thank you. That's so sweet of you. I'm so excited to be here, of course.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to have it. So for those of you that don't know a little backstory, Allison and I met years ago through networking. And, we network and then we get into our own worlds and then we reconnect somehow. Somehow the universe brings us back together and then we misconnection and then we come back together again. So the universe has meant for us to do this, and I'm excited because before I hit record, anxiety is at an all-time high, and I'm not somebody who identifies as somebody who has anxiety, but I have moments of anxiety, which I think everybody has. And what you're doing, Allison, is so needed and so helpful in today's world because the noise out there is crazy and anxiety provoking. So whether you identify like I do as somebody who has anxiety moments or somebody who really feels that they have, anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive, whatever it is for you, Allison, you're doing great work and you're here to help us. You're here to help us.
Yes. Well, I do want to just respond to those statistics you said in the beginning. It's crazy just how rampant, anxiety specifically, but also mental health disorders are today. And I think those numbers are very significant because if you think about the access that so many of our younger people have to the information today that we didn't have, back in the day. And, I think that there's just language now for kids that age. I call them kids because I'm an old head. So
There are kids. My
young
kids are always
adults.
my kids.
young adults.
Yeah.
But they have more access and more information now to know, hey, this is maybe what I'm going through. And we didn't really have that back in the day. So even, so that statistics kind of makes sense to me, right?
Yes.
How they would
And
identify.
yeah, and in addition to that, me as an adult, as a parent of two children, who fall into both the category of ages 18 to 25 and 26 to 49, I have learned more. I am in a position where I can support my children more and point them in a direction where they want to go. And yeah, I'll share a story later on about I didn't even know I was having anxiety attacks in my late
Oh,
teens, early 20s until I was a young adult. And I remember my mom and I talking once, I was explaining this feeling I would have. She's like, Jody, you were having anxiety. I didn't even know. My mom didn't know because I didn't know. I didn't know what this
100%.
feeling was. I thought something was wrong physically. But anyway, so Allison, how did you, I mean, we know you're a licensed therapist.
Hmm.
How did you get to here? How did you get to really honing in that you wanted to be the anxiety healer, that was
Yeah.
your focus?
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting that you were just talking a little bit about when you were younger and how you didn't know how to recognize what was going on. And that's actually part of my story. I started the community, a couple of years back in like 2018 or something on Instagram. Um, and didn't really realize that I would be actually sharing in this journey with everybody that follows me because I've had anxiety, honestly, as young as I can remember. Probably when I was a really little kid when I don't even have a lot of memories, but, I will say some of my first memories are being, like, in the nurse's office at school all the time, like, with
Mm,
stomach aches, and I would be in the nurse's office. I had a lot of social anxiety. um, I'm a very highly sensitive person, and so I had really big emotions. And there was not a lot of language back then for what I was going through. So I was always fine. Everything's fine. Oh, you're fine. Don't worry. People are uncomfortable with feelings. So I would be crying or I would be, scared of something or I'd be worried, of course. I'm just predisposed to anxiety now. I know that. So my brain was very hyperactive when I was little and I would worry a lot and everything's fine and no one would really validate me and I just end up in the nurse's office because when you're young a lot of your emotions like fear and worry they manifest physically. So
yeah,
kids don't really have the language to know how to express emotions. We're taught that. That's why it's so important for our caregivers and schools to teach us about emotions because we don't know how to talk about them. We're not born just knowing how to talk about feelings. We're guided, by
right.
our caregivers and people. So that was kind of the first realization I had as I did this work as an adult was that was me as a kid. And then during the holidays, a lot of family would come over and it'd be like maybe a half hour. And then I would have a really bad stomach ache and be on the
Mm,
couch with my heating pad. And my mom would be like, it's okay. You don't need to like come. Don't worry. And she was very sweet, but still didn't know a lot about what was going on.
right.
So I internalized a lot. And then as a teenager, I got really involved in friendships and socially became this like almost the opposite. I almost wanted to be so social. So no, I wanted to be popular all the time. So I never had that anxiety of not being liked or something. So I tried to be friends with everybody. And as my 20s went on, I started drinking a lot more because I would get social anxiety with dating and boys. And then I didn't know how to act with people. So I drink a lot when I was out because that made me feel better. I was like, oh, I don't care as much. My brain is like quieter. And then I had one of the worst panic attacks of my life when I was 30 on my 30th birthday.
Mm.
And I have a whole episode about this on my podcast.
Oh, we'll share
Um,
that. We'll share that for sure.
yeah, I'll let you know which episode. But it was a surprise party my sister was throwing for me. And I remember I was already going through my journey of sort of like not knowing what was wrong with me. There were a lot of toxic friends in that moment and that time that I really didn't want to talk to and I wasn't talking to for a little while. But my sister and family didn't know that. And so they invited all those people to my surprise party.
Oh,
And I had no idea. They didn't have any idea that I was really just not wanting to be around a lot of those people. So I ended up having a horrible panic attack. People drove from like hours away for this surprise. Again, a half hour after I was upstairs in the bathroom, like my IBS. Yeah, just like couldn't come out of the bathroom. All my friends were downstairs. My sister cooked and was like 8 months pregnant and had all this stuff ready
oh
for
my
me.
gosh.
I spent the entire day in bed, and all my friends were all out together. And then some of the people that came that I didn't want to come got mad at me because
Of
they didn't
course.
know it was wrong and they were mad. And they're like, what's wrong with you? And then I just remember my one girlfriend was my saving grace who understood anxiety and she helped me through that day. And that was really the start of me being like, something is going on. And I was also in a master's program for psychology. So I started learning a lot more about myself, going to therapy. And as I just like got into, I was a school counselor for a while. So I loved working with kids. And as I got licensed, the social media started. Facebook started first, right? There wasn't
Yes.
really much about that. But then on Instagram, I really just started saying to myself, you know what? This is something that's not talked about enough. And I don't care if people in my field are going to like be naysayers because there's a lot of people in my psychology
Oh,
field that don't
yes.
like the one that I do this and that I share a lot about my life and that some of my clients might see like this part of my life that, in a traditional therapeutic environment and what we're taught in school, they shouldn't know about me. But I'm like
Right.
changing that paradigm. I think that them knowing that helps them trust me and feel like they can relate to me. And so I just started sharing a lot more about what I just told you on Instagram and helping. I really want people to feel less alone in it. The community piece is huge for me. Just the education piece of
Yep.
learning about anxiety and the different types of anxieties and panic disorders and panic attacks and what kind of holistic tools can help because I'm a holistic practitioner. Um, that's just something that was
Yeah.
so important to me. So, yeah.
So, and I have to tell you, I know this to be true. We've talked about it, that it was a little bit scary for you to break free of what was supposed to be how you should be as a licensed clinical therapist and not
Yeah.
share who you are. But it's because of your willingness to be vulnerable and you share when you've had lows, you share when you have highs. It's your willingness to share so much of what you're going through with those following you that has helped. I would venture to say, I can't even imagine the messages you receive, but you've probably helped thousands of people to know I'm not crazy. If a licensed therapist can feel this way, then I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not, and we have to let people know they're not alone. I do
Oh,
that
yeah.
through the empty nest. Like, yes, I've
Mhm.
cried when my kids left. And yes, I've felt lost in my career. And there's ways out of it. So we're going to do it together. But you have to share. I love your willingness to be vulnerable and to share. So hats off to you. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of this
Yes.
of this whole journey is being able to go on my stories, right? Or even my reels and have people actually see what's going on in my life. I mean, some
Yeah.
people might be like, why is she's talking so much about this? Some people are put off by that sometimes. And let's be honest, like being vulnerable is what's scary for a lot what's And so
They can go follow somebody else if they're
yeah.
uncomfortable with your
Yeah, I and I
vulnerability.
say and I say that and I think to myself, you know what? This vulnerability for me is actually part of my healing journey.
I was
Like
gonna say it has to be healing
the
for you.
yeah,
And maybe the people that are uncomfortable with that are the ones that are comfortable. Like we're uncomfortable with other people's, and maybe they need to sit there and take it in.
look
And
inward.
so yes.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my first question. Because and you show if you're not following Allison, in the show notes below is every place you can find Allison. I highly recommend Instagram and TikTok. Follow her because she does not only educates you on what anxiety looks like, she shows you what anxiety looks like. So let's talk a little bit because like when I started off this episode, I said I don't have a generalized anxiety. I hate the word disorder, but disorder.
I
I
know.
mean, whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever. But I have moments of anxiety. So what does anxiety look like? What can it look like?
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of part of my mantra on my page is that anxiety looks different for everybody, so healing looks different for everybody. So in my book, I talk about creating your own healing toolkit, and
Yep.
some people look at that and they think, "Oh, okay, what is it? I want to write it down." And I say to them, "Okay, no, I'm not telling you what it is. You're the one that's going to figure out what your toolkit is for you."
I love
Like
that.
everyone's toolkit looks different. So everyone's anxiety looks different. So everyone has really different experiences, right? So, yes, there are specific disorders that have certain criteria in the DSM that we can categorize, like social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, post traumatic stress disorder,
Right.
health illness anxiety disorder, so generalized anxiety. So, yes, there's some that we can categorize with certain criteria, but even someone has social anxiety that's diagnosed with that, every person's going to have different experiences of what creates worry and fear for them, right? So
True.
it really is like what's really important is to get very clear and become really self-aware about like your emotions and your triggers and what kinds of situations that you can identify that make you really, really uncomfortable. Maybe you're not really aware of the feelings and emotions that are connected yet, but you know that you feel really uncomfortable. And then what situations do you see yourself avoiding? So avoidance is huge in the cycle of anxiety. So when it comes to symptoms of anxiety, I would say 99.9% of people will always have physical symptoms that attach to some type of feeling of fear or worry. So, very common symptoms of anxiety are heart palpitations, dizziness, sweating, upset stomach, heavy chest, like
Mm,
shortness of breath, um, headaches. Did I say that? I don't know.
mm,
But just a lot of those types
yeah.
of physical symptoms, and sometimes it goes with your heart, which people get really scared about because panic attack can
Yeah.
really feel like a heart attack. But nothing's really happening that's dangerous, but you believe that it is.
Yes.
So your mind races and all of that. So those are just some symptoms that are common.
Yeah. I know for me, um, I start to feel like very tense in the chest, like nothing hurts, but like my breathing gets quick. And when I start to feel anxious or like frustration turned to anxiety, it's interesting going back to a memory. I used to have stomach aches as a kid.
Let's
So
see.
actually, but for me,
Yeah.
like when you say, how do you create your own healing toolkit? I know that too much news creates anxiety within me. I mean, that's my number one go-to. Turn it off. Like turn the
Yep.
noise off. You cannot have all that negativity in the background of your mind. It's going to affect you somehow. So I know how I can consume news so that I know enough about what's going in the world, but not to create that like that anxiety within me. And I also, so number one, I know that about myself because I love what you said. Everything about this personal growth journey, everything about healing yourself and coming up with your toolkit starts with being aware
Yeah.
of who you are and what makes you tick. I mean, self-awareness. And I also know that for me, the simple act of taking a few deep breaths is all I need. And yeah,
But
the deep breaths.
what's just one important thing though with the deep breaths, because a lot of times people hear like take a deep breath and that can sometimes create more anxiety for
I need.
someone who's having struggle breathing. So it's more about slowing your breath
Ah, I
and
like that.
it's more about slowing your breath and also breathing from your diaphragm or breathing from your belly
So
and
it's
not
more
from your
slowing
chest.
down. Yeah.
Yes. So you want to make sure that when you're taking like a deep breath in or a slow deep breath in, that your stomach is rising. And then when you blow out through your mouth, that your stomach is going in. So
Yeah.
that's really the belly breath is what you want to become habit. That's how you want to breathe. You want to breathe from your belly. And that's going to send oxygen to your brain. That's really what's going to slow your heart rate.
All right. So everybody listening right now, everybody take a deep belly breath, right? Right. And the belly breath in through
It
the
can
nose.
in through the nose and it can help to put your hand on your belly so you can
You feel it
recognize that when
expand.
you feel it expand. And then, yeah, and you always want your exhale to be a little longer than your inhale.
Okay.
So I would inhale for 4 and then exhale for 6 if you can. Um, because when you exhale, that's sending even more oxygen to your brain.
I love that. So you want your belly, you want it in your belly. You want to inhale, exhale longer than your inhale. So inhale for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 6. I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. And that's how you start creating that. There's something else I had heard. I read, it was actually funny. It was a book about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the first chapter in a book, going back to what you said about we're not even sure about our emotions and we don't know how to and going to kids and helping them understand what they're feeling in terms of emotions. This was something, and I go to it all the time. It's something in me feels,
Yeah.
and I'm saying hello to that. And all of a sudden, by saying that, you put a little bit distance. You're not ignoring it, but you're not allowing the emotion to define you, become you. You're saying something in me feels anxious.
Mhm.
And I wonder why. Or I'm going to say hi to that. And all of a sudden, you're taking yourself a little bit out so you become aware and get curious about it. And I love that. And that's
Yeah,
something that
that's
kids
great.
can understand. Like if you have little kids, if you have grandkids and they're acting out, I mean, well, I grew up, it's like, stop your crying. Nobody said to me, what's making you cry? What does it
Exactly.
feel like? What is it?
Mhm.
What is making you cry? Like nobody got to the root cause of my feelings, and it's frustrating. And today we have the tools to do that, and I know you offer a lot. So deep breaths is one, and I know we can like that's my go-to in my toolkit. But what would be another go-to that you have heard that you could use, or that somebody you know has shared with you that they've added to their toolkit, just to give somebody an idea if somebody is so concrete they're stuck and they can't figure it out.
Yes. Well, and I'm all about practical action steps. That's a huge piece of the Anxiety Healer's Guide because that has been my journey, along with my cognitive behavioral therapy I've done on my own, and a lot of mindfulness work I've done on my own as well.
Yeah.
But practical action steps are just so healing for me. And the research has been great with a lot of what I'm going to share with you about how it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of our body that's the rest and digest part of our autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight, and that's what is really activated when we're feeling really deep
Right.
fear and worry. And so we want to try and, again, practice these sort of exercises that activate the parasympathetic side, but we want to practice them consistently and not just when we're feeling panicked or anxious. So that's a huge piece. We want to create a lifestyle change.
Because when you practice them over time, it's almost like subconsciously you can call on it when it happens eventually.
100%. It becomes
And
a habit.
practice makes some like it just
Progress.
becomes progress. Practice makes progress and also
Yeah.
allows it to come naturally.
100%. So some of those things are, so we mentioned the belly breathing, and that's only one exercise out of, a lot of different types of techniques that I would consider a breath work practice. So, my book has a lot of different types of breathing tools that can really help, again, create this balance with your body. So
Yeah.
breath work is huge. Um, moving your body, so body movement. So a lot of people, and this is fine for if this works for people, but we'll use the word exercise. I don't really like to use the word exercise. I just like to use word movement
Mhm.
because any movement is really beneficial for you. So it could be just taking a walk around the block for 10 minutes and also getting outside. Nature is the other one
Yeah.
that has such a healing effect on the mind and body. So being able to go outside, and also if you can get sunlight, especially within the first 30 minutes that you wake up, if you can get
Oh,
sunlight, it's really good for your circadian rhythm and your cortisol levels. So, within 30 minutes to an hour of waking up, going outside. So, moving your body, really slow movement for me. Yoga has been a game changer in my nervous system. The community that I'm a part of in my neighborhood has to do with that because not every yoga studio is like this, but they incorporate a lot of mindfulness and breath work in with their classes. So it's amazing. And so yoga, anything like yoga or like Tai Chi can be really healing for people, even like doing like a Pilates or bar class. And also going to the gym is good too. If you feel like you want to go and do the stepper or whatever, great. But any type of movement you can do, even stretching,
I was going to
that
say stretching. I stretch and it relieves so much tension within my
yes.
body. And you have to, you kind of have to drop out of your head into your breath to get deeper into the stretch.
Yeah,
So that's going back to creating your healing toolkit, like movement. And then you have to figure out what is the movement that works and feels best for you.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I
Exactly.
did not know about the sunlight, the first 30, 60 minutes. And you know what? I used to do, Allison, and I want to do it. I'm going to do it again. Now that it's springtime, the sun
Mhm.
rises right outside of my garage doors. And I
Oh,
used to wake up purposely, grab my coffee. I have a chair in my garage. I open the garage door and I sit there and I watch the sunrise and I would have my coffee. I
my
stopped
gosh,
doing
that's
that.
so
I
lovely.
stopped doing that. I'm going to do that.
There's your dare.
That's my dare. That's my
That's your
dare.
dare
Well, I
to do
love,
that.
okay, so I love this. So,
Um,
yeah.
And then there's like a couple more that I could just say, and you can kind of look
Yeah, go
into this in
ahead.
my book or on your own. But any type of grounding techniques you can practice. There's one called the five senses grounding technique that I love, where you essentially think of all the five senses you have and just become really present with what's around you. So you look at what's around you, you hear what's around you, kind of touch what's around you, and you just become really present with that, and it grounds you back into that moment. So there's a lot of grounding techniques like that. And also, I love meditation and visualization exercises. And that's very, very unique to everybody because people hear the word meditation and they want to crawl into a hole.
I
They're
know.
like, this sounds terrible to me. But in my book, I really describe a way to love it, even if you hate it, and where you can start. So,
So there's a link in the show notes below to the Anxiety Healer's Guide, which is the book that we're referencing. Um, and it's funny because I resisted meditation for a long time. And yet I did it in a way that I didn't even know I was meditating. Like I have a gift. I can literally lay down and just breathe and breathe myself, not to sleep. I was never to say, I used to say I breathed myself to a nap, but I wasn't fully asleep. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing because all I ever
yeah,
had thought about was meditation is I have quiet my mind. And if anybody has, if they ever want to put a videotape in my mind or an audio, there's nothing quiet going on. I mean, and
right.
there are times that I sit to have, and I like guided meditation because it does make me focus on
Yes.
words. For me, sitting in total silence is like, I open my eyes, I'm like, oh my God, stop. And I'm just like, and I force myself to finish. So I go for guided meditations because then I have something, whether it's a mantra repeating, a message that I need to hear, and it takes me. And when it's over, I usually am in such a deep meditative state that I sit there for another 5 to 10 minutes.
Mhm.
So I
That's
love that.
amazing.
So
That's
yes,
amazing.
your book is for everybody out there. It's a tool for you. It's a tool for you to support friends and family.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
there are certain books that need to be on a bookshelf, and yours is one of them.
You're so sweet.
Yours is-
People have been recently reaching out to me saying that they actually bought it for their teenagers.
Yes.
And it's actually such a great, and I did that on purpose because like the way I was writing it, because it is very practical and it's very easy to
Yes.
follow. And so a lot of the high schoolers, they want that right now. They want to be able to just pull the book out and say, okay, I need to kind of practice this right now, or I want to try and learn this practical step. And so, yeah, it's been
Hey,
nice.
I'm even gonna go out on a limb because I know that as of the airing of this, um, we're entering a big, I mean, we already had probably, we're entering the big high school graduation season and
Oh yeah.
college graduation season. And and if you're looking for a gift to give your college bound son or daughter,
Yes.
order this book. And when you write that love letter that you leave under their pillow in their dorm room, put the book there as well. Put the book there as well.
Totally.
Sometimes your kids would rather read it for themselves than hear their mother tell them.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just
Yes.
saying. So
Yes.
what a great, you
Totally.
know what? I'm going to share that in the group that as I'm going to, I just decided in this moment, see, this is what I mean about my mind doesn't stop. Allison, deep breath.
There you go. From the belly.
I am going to put a list of suggested graduation gifts and I'm using your book.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you.
Yes.
That's such a good idea, too. Yeah.
Yep, yep, I'm gonna do that. So I love that. So, we covered a lot, what anxiety could look and feel like, how to
Mhm.
create your healing toolkit. You have to come up with your own, but Allison gave you some really good um tools for your toolkit, and you get to learn how to make them your own. Don't get stuck in how do I do my breathing? How do I do yoga? How to make it your own, figure it out. I had to figure out meditation for myself. I couldn't listen to for some people, meditation is like I feel in a very relaxed, calm state. What calms me and gets me focus and clarity in my life is cooking. Cooking,
100%.
cutting
That's part
vegetables,
of your
cooking.
toolkit. It's therapeutic
Yes.
for you.
Part of mine is like sometimes when
That's,
I'm having like a really moment in my
yep.
business, I take a break. I'm like, and I just go and I start cooking. I prepare
Hmm.
dinner and then I'm reset, ready to continue. So there's so many ways to do this.
That's
So
so
Alton,
awesome.
the work you're doing, it's so
Thank
important.
you.
It's just so
Thank you.
important.
And I do want to say that for anyone that's feeling kind of overwhelmed, they hear the word toolkit and maybe don't even know where they would start.
Right.
Or, okay, well, I know this like helps me, but I don't know, maybe I'm just too dependent on that, because you never want to be too dependent on one thing in your toolkit, right? Like,
Okay.
and that happens a lot with people because part of my toolkit and if everyone's toolkit should be a support system, right? That's part of it. It's a support system, but sometimes it's a slippery slope because someone will become dependent too much, like on their partner or on their one, their therapist or their best
Yes.
friend when they're panicking and they're like, I have to talk to that person or else I'm not going to be able to calm down. And that's not what this is meant to do, right? You're not supposed to be dependent on just one thing. These are all self-regulation, self-soothing tools, which is great. But part of this process is to learn how to reorganize and reprocess your brain when and then also incorporate these tools into it. So I can help anyone listening or watching in my I just the last like year have been putting together my one-on-one coaching program and I have like a couple coaching clients already. So if anyone wants more information about that, I can give you that too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Everything. We will not spare and leave any link out that you want us to share
Yeah.
for the many ways that people can find support through you. Because there's so
Okay.
many different
Good.
ways they can do that. So yes, absolutely. That's why this is such an important conversation and such an important time of year for parents managing their level of anxiety and worry and stress over their kids leaving home. And then you have your kid, believe it or not, even if your kids seem really excited about going away, they don't know what they don't know. They're navigating so much when they go off to school. And one of the biggest things that kids that aren't prepared for, we don't prepare them. I didn't prepare my kids, is that feeling of disconnection when you go off to college for the first time because you don't know anybody. You're
Right.
leaving that community, the community of support, the friends who know every nuance about your personality. So
Yeah.
send them with the book, send them with the tools
Yeah.
and
Totally.
start letting them fill their own toolkit, but start with yourself. It's always about putting your oxygen mask on first. So moms and dads listening to this, you know, figure out, because what I told you is what I shared at the beginning based on this article in Forbes is that adults ages 50 and over represent 13 or just about 14% of adults ages 50 and over are experiencing levels of anxiety and mental illness, and we have to help ourselves if we're going to help others. So I
And
love
that's only the ones that are reporting it.
exactly.
Mhm.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Allison. So we do have to leave everybody with a dare. I think we already
Yes.
kind of did, but we can just like fine tune it for them.
So I have one more though that I'd like to add.
Yeah. No,
Just
go
a
ahead.
dare. I want everyone to, when they wake up, I mean, if you can do the thing with the sun, awesome. But I want you to drink one glass of water every morning.
So we have a dare, we have a double dare. So, well,
Okay.
the main dare is upon waking in the morning, drink one full glass of water.
Yes. Water is going to be so huge in your healthcare period. So if you're someone who, like me, who has like an emotional support water bottle that I carry around all the time
For those
because
of you
I
not watching video, we both picked up our support water bottles.
Yes, we did. They're right next to us. Um, because of just how much water I really for myself throughout the day. Um, but that's not habit for a lot of people. So I really want you to start getting into the habit of drinking more water. And if that means just having a glass of water in the morning, at least starting there,
Yeah,
that's gonna be an awesome goal.
I love that dare. And the double dare, or the second part of your dare, is to um figure out one tool for your toolkit to start with. Just start with one. How is it? And if you've always wanted to try meditation, read up on all the different ways to meditate. Walking in nature is meditative. So
Yeah.
drink one glass of water when you wake up and identify one tool that you can put in your toolkit today to help ease the feelings of anxiety and worry that come over you. Yes, what else?
And I say one more thing, just that will make it
Yeah, you can
easier to
say
pick your
anything you want.
tools,
You're the
is
anxiety
to,
healer.
I was going to say, is to follow me. Follow
Oh,
me on Instagram.
yes, absolutely,
Follow
following.
me on Instagram and I have all these highlights that have anxiety tips. It can help you kickstart your toolkit process.
Love that.
Um, and if you don't have Instagram, just start a blank page just so you can follow me and look at it.
I love it. I love it. Yes, absolutely. And yeah,
Yeah.
we're leaving it at that. So everybody, listen up. You know what I'm going to say. My purpose and mission for starting the show was to provide, the audience. You're the audience, and the majority of our audience are midlife women, ages 45 and over, experiencing life transitions such as emptiness, such as our caring for our aging parents, such as figuring out who we want to be in our world of retirement in this next chapter. And my goal, my mission is that you get one piece of value, something for your life toolkit from each one of these episodes from the guests I host. There were so many good bits of information and golden nuggets in this episode with Allison. Which is the one that resonated most for you? What had you go, yes, during this episode? Let me know. Leave a comment on YouTube. Leave us a review on Apple. Send me a message. I'll make sure Allison gets it. Go follow her on Instagram and send her a DM and tell her what it was about this episode that really supported you and helped you in navigating the anxieties of the world. And
Definitely.
absolutely. And don't forget the dares. And also don't forget to tune in next Thursday, because there'll be another new episode of Beyond Empty Nest waiting for you. And as I always say, dare on. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Empty Nest. For detailed show notes and more information, be sure to visit jodysilverman.com. Have you heard of the Double Dares? Well, we're a community of moms and midlife women blending virtual and in-person interactions for connection, support, and exciting experiences. From Mommy and Me classes to soccer sidelines, moms have always found strength in community. And as we navigate the empty nest and other midlife transitions, having that go-to safe space and other women to lean on is a must. Ladies, this is not the chapter to do it alone. Our drama-free group echoes the sentiment of the Cheers theme song, a place where everybody knows your name and our troubles are all the same. If you've been seeking connection and have a desire to figure out who you are and what your purpose is now, then Moms Who Double Dare is the perfect fit for you. Only through the link in our show notes below can you explore and enjoy the first month at half off. Plus, with no contracts, there's zero risk involved. Join us today and get started on your journey of self-discovery, surrounded by new friends who understand and get you. You've sent your kids off to brave new experiences, meet new people, and discover who they get to be. Now, it's your turn. It's your turn to embrace this new adventure. If you're ready to dare on, I'm here to lead the way. Let's embark on this exciting journey together. Click the link below, and as I always say, dare on.